so fucking black here.
I don't know. I ain't got no pause. I'm sorry.
Palms?
What's up? I'm sorry. I didn't have a stop. Anyway, what's up, guys? It's Mike Frank with Berkshire Hathaway. Not Berkshire Hathaway.
Damn.
Okay.
XP
What?
Realty.
What?
This is our coming out party.
Dude, I should have been last week.
We didn't even talk about it last week.
Well, we didn't, but people were probably had their eyebrows raised, like, what's going on
I
here?
had Baron Scarlett call me and be like, hey, are you guys with EXP? And I was like, yeah, it literally happened the same day that we were talking about everyone leaving.
Yeah, right. Well, and the thing is, like, I didn't want to say anything because it wasn't legitimately formal.
But like it was, but
it wasn't. So I just like didn't say it. Last week I was like, oh, Frank Oliver and Company, and nobody said anything. Now, boom, roasted. Boom. Anyway, so
Now,
for those people that watch, Jeff Bisker,
shout out Jeff.
right? Big shout out for huge support from Goosehead Agency. Jeff has been a big part of our business for the last year and huge part of our podcast. Fun fact.
Dude, his episode that we had was so much fun.
It was great, and I wish you would
loved
do
it.
more of it.
I loved it. Jeff, next week
Didn't
you
we
would be
just
on?
talk about how we're not scheduling?
Okay, we don't schedule podcasts.
Yeah, someone was supposed to come in today at 11:50.
Right, that's the whole thing. All right. So here's the thing, right? For those people that are watching that are like, man, what are we doing? It's like, look, if we schedule it and we have like a structure to it and every week we're going to talk about a specific thing, we'd be talking about buying in the spring market right now.
We're gonna
But here
get
we
to
are.
that.
Right.
Sealants. We'll get there. I mean, we talk about real estate things, but the key is that we don't want it to be like a pressure thing. And so when I'm not here, I'm not here. When you're not here, you're not here. Nice job. But we had tried to get someone on the podcast, really excited about it, and then, didn't work out. So rather than build up all the, pent up aggression, we just keep going.
There's no pent up aggression.
There is from me.
Yeah, right. Everyone else is just chilling. Like, we're like, hey, let's get Jeff on. Let's get this person on. You're like, no scheduling.
No scheduling, right?
We're going to get that like right up here. No scheduling.
Right. Meanwhile, pay attention to your calendar.
Right. Like, what do you want from me?
Anyway, so we were supposed to have Ray on, and unfortunately she couldn't get here. But excited to talk a little bit with Heather instead of Ray, and just chat a little bit about the spring market and what that means for you.
Right.
For you.
For
Yay,
you.
I'm so excited.
Okay. So share with us. What's your thoughts on the spring market?
I have a full-time job.
And then-
literally, that's what it's been.
Literally.
Yeah.
Actually, fun fact. So since we've left Berkshire Hathaway, it's been about a week now. We are busier than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's cool.
So when we switched, I started tripping balls because I was like, I haven't had active clients for months. Now all of a sudden I do, and I'm submitting offers, and it's like, oh, well, how are we going to do this?
I think almost everyone on our team has a listing. Andrea has 6.
Yeah.
Allison has 2.
Crushing.
It's just kind of wild, and the opportunity that we open as the market continues to change, and that's kind of what I think people are focusing on today. Is we're in a spring market, but we're not in just any spring market. Like, this is different than the last 2 years, and wildly different from 5 years ago.
Well, me and Heather can really only speak on the last 2 years. I also feel like I'm really loud, but
You are really loud, and I keep turning you down.
okay. All right. Well, last 2 years, I feel like this spring market is kind of similar in a way. Like, I feel like a lot of my offers have been or clients have been in multiple offer scenarios or situations, and
Right.
like, covering closing costs in the spring market, having sellers do that is like not as heard of right now. I don't know. It's more of like a battle, and like a lot of properties have been showing like in Ellicott City or Elk Ridge or those areas, even just like all around the board. There's been multiple offers.
Yeah.
People that have been planning on having closing costs covered, it's a little bit more difficult.
Well, I think we could speak to that though, right? There's a big difference between the ability to get closing costs covered today versus a year ago.
Well, even months ago.
Like,
If you like in the winter market, holiday season, October, November, December, all that time, like we were getting closing costs left and right, like all of it, half of it, like any real amount, you had that negotiating power. And I feel like now with a lot of my clients that I'm putting in offers, it's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more competitive. So now we have to go about it in a different way.
one thing that I've seen, and I've seen this actually from a conversation that we had in, let's just use November. The market was winding down a little bit from its crazy COVID high, but there was also more inventory than we had had in years prior. And what we know about sellers that list in November and December is
they're emotionally motivated.
They're motivated.
Yeah.
Right? They're like ready to go because you wouldn't list at that time of the year if you weren't really focused on doing it.
Right.
So then we have buyers that are in the market that are like, but I need my closing costs paid for. And great. So there's this added inventory, buyers in the market, sellers that are motivated, and past sales that were for record highs. So
Right.
what we were able to do was we were able to come in at a real price and offer the seller more while giving the buyer the ability to pay their closing costs.
Well, dude, Roger and Abigail, they settled when I was, where was I headed to? My cousin's wedding. You went to the settlement in Dunkirk.
Oh, yeah.
Their property, we were able to negotiate price, I think, down 15,000 and get another 15 in closing costs covered. So it's like they saved like 30 grand.
But it was also still a high price.
Yeah.
For what it was. Like,
right.
From every which angle, it's a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
Because it's higher than it has been in years prior, with more closing costs, which we hadn't seen in the prior 2 years, with a better term, right? Because they were able to get the sellers to help make repairs and other things, which haven't happened. But then now, let's just say 5 months later, we're looking at multiple offers and not as much and so on and so forth. But the question that I have is, why?
Why are we in multiple offers? Like, why is it a little bit more difficult on the buyer end to get those things covered?
Yeah.
Because there's more availability of buyers. So you can be asking for upfront cash for seller help, but if no one else is and they have cash to close and 30-day financing or
Bang.
cash to close and whatever, like.
I also think it's a little bit of both. There's a lot of buyers in the market now. There's a lot of sellers. And with some of my clients, they're looking in a really mapped out area, like a very small area. And even in that, I've seen a lot more property come to the market, and that can be kind of all around the areas that we service. But same thing with buyers. Going back to that conversation that we have with our clients, like, oh, if you list in the spring, you're really going to have to do stuff to make your property stand out. But also if you're to buy in the spring, you know how many other people are doing the same thing?
And that's what I was getting at. What I was getting at is that the buyers are going after the same property.
Yep.
So if let's just say there's 10 properties that fit your criteria, there's 90 properties that fit your criteria. It doesn't matter, right? If 10% of those properties are your ideal home, well, everyone else that's looking at their 30, their 90, their 20, those are the same 10%.
Yep.
So when we're in a competitive situation, what we're competing against is the quality of the other buyer.
Yeah.
Whereas, like Roger and Abigail bought a beautiful home, but it wasn't in the most pristine or the best location or the right, for everyone. Because this is what I've been saying for years. The right property sells with multiple offers, no matter what the market looks like.
Right.
Because everyone wants it.
Right.
Forget the price, forget how overpriced it is or undervalued it is. Everyone wants that house. And that's why Joe Wilson's house sold for so much money.
Yeah.
I mean, simply put, that's what it were.
Yeah.
And then when you had, who was the guy that chose not to list with us?
Stevens?
Steven.
No, but that was his last name.
Anyway.
Wait, no, it was Steven. It's Stephen Farnett.
Stephen Farnett. All right.
And it
so
was like
Steven,
like a block away from Joe Wilson's house.
Yeah. All right. So Steven had a beautiful property, different layout, a little bit smaller, not quite as perfect, but Steven was attached to something. Do you remember what he was attached to?
Like about his property, the numbers that we were running, or I know he was really focused on when he was walking away with commission as well.
Right? He was attached to commission.
Yeah.
That was his only focusing driver, was his commission. So when we were talking to him, it didn't matter if we offered him 4%, 7%, 12%. He wanted 1% listing commission because that's what Redfin sold him.
Dude, it's crazy.
So he focused on that 1%. So he was only able to see that as his opportunity. And then he found the buyer that was looking for that home, which in my opinion, didn't create the drive for the buyers in the market. Same neighborhood, same timeline. Everything else was the same, but he didn't create the drive for the buyers, which is in our marketing strategy. Now we're here.
Yeah. And then his property, I think it was 90 to 120 days it sat on the market. And we were talking to him probably around the 60, 70-ish day mark, trying to help him out, give him some pointers and, offering what we could do for him, especially since we sold Joe Wilson's house and had a line of cars down the block. night and day in comparison to both properties. Like,
well, that's the thing that our buyers need to understand, right? Looking into today's market, when I was on the To Be Frank show live this morning on Facebook, I said something that was like, even if you have to take a higher interest rate, finding the right lender is your key, right? So if you're working with that buyer that's like, did Rachel go under contract this weekend? Oh, well, then never mind. All right. So if you're working with Rachel, then she's with the right team, she's with the right people, and then you go under contract. Boom. Which, by the way, last week, Heather was like, I'm going under contract this weekend, so I didn't know. Hey. Anyway.
Wait, that confused me.
First of all, we're supposed to be like, woo! Right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm sorry, something went so over my head. I'm not sure.
You're supposed to just be excited. My point was that if you're working with Rachel, you're working with that buyer, you're working with that seller, Steven, or otherwise, the focal point is identifying the situation that works best for them.
Yeah.
And so if Steven thinks that he's profitable getting his 1% interest rate versus ours, which, could be 3, 5, 7, 12, doesn't matter. If we can demonstrate to him why he's more profitable with us, he would choose to hire us. When a buyer is looking into today's market, they're looking for the best house for the lowest price with all the closing costs paid for. So what if we found the worst house with the best price with all the closing costs paid for, or the best house for the worst price with some closing costs paid for, or none?
Yeah.
And that's the reality that we need to be talking to, like Jarmel and Brittany, who, congratulations, right?
We did it.
We did it.
Hooray.
Yay. You did it. Best coffee ever. Anyway, that's what we're looking at. Like, if you want to get this content, buying in the spring market, the spring is here, wait for the spring market to make a move in real estate, that time is now. Like, go to our blog, whatever. Go find your own real estate agent. But if you want to actually start making moves, you need to align yourself with somebody that's going to position you in a place to understand what you were just talking about with Steven, or what you did with Rachel, positioning her with an agent and a lender that's going to help her accomplish that goal.
I think a lot of people have this, like, again, coming to the real estate market as a consumer, what have you, they already have this, like, idea in their head of how everything's going to play out, how they want it to play out without having spoke to anybody. And I think that's a huge issue. Like, people are like, oh, I'm going to find this nice house up on the hill. I'm going to have no closing costs. Like, I'm not going to pay for any of it, blah, blah, blah. And then when you come down to sit to them in reality, it's like a good reality. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Why are you, like, holding your phone like that?
Because I'm a weirdo.
Okay. Well, it's like, but like sit. The coldest podcast room ever.
Anyway, I ruined your train of thought. It's really funny that ruins your train of thought. I feel like the world could be falling. It could be like slowly like blocks toppling, and I just keep going. And Christian's like, wait, the cat ran through the room. Did somebody see that? Tell me somebody saw the cat. Oh my God.
I don't even know where I was going now.
I think the key is that everybody does come to the conversation focused on their own energy, right? Like they come with the approach. And where my thought process goes to about that, how many people did you talk to at Live Baltimore that immediately were like, nah, I got somebody, or like, nah, I'm looking for this, or like, no, I'm an investor. Like, why are you here?
Right. Oh, very few.
I mean, even like if they would say something like that, it wasn't like a no, I already have an agent.
No.
Well, right. But what I mean is like when they're coming in with that energy that's like, oh, I have somebody. Now you've got to like beat me up to win over my business. It doesn't make sense. Like, why did you come here if that's your energy? You see what I mean? People come with that energy regardless.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about like past clients, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I met past clients, and then walking through the house, they're like, oh, this is dirty. And I'm like, it's not dirty. Like, I understand what you're saying, and I see what you see. I understand why you want a little bit better, but let's use different words. They're like, it's dirty. I'm like, this is clean. Like, this is like, I'll eat right off the countertop here. But if you want a nicer countertop, I understand why you think that way.
Right.
And I think people walk in and they're like, granite, walk-in closets, soaking tubs, big bathrooms. I'm like, how much is your budget? They're like, oh, I'd like to spend $1,000 a month. I'm like,
All right.
Right. I was talking to my brother yesterday. He's living in an apartment, $1,600 a month, including utilities. And I was like, ooh, that's what my house cost me. And he's like, yeah, but you bought it 6 years ago. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So how long is it going to take you to buy a house? right? Because in 6 years, do you want to be paying $2,400 or do you want to buy a house today for $2,000?
Do you think you'll be able to convert your brother into buying?
I think everybody's got a different plan. I think there are some people in the world that just genuinely are not homeowner people.
Courtney.
I think, see, Courtney's problem is that she's a visionary.
Yeah.
Do you know Courtney's vision as it pertains to her housing?
She wants to own Tendeco Wharf.
She wants to own the condo that she lives in. She's like, I'm not buying a house. I'm just going to buy the whole building. Like, what? That's her way of thinking.
But I mean, that also makes sense. Like when people are like, oh, I don't want to buy it. I mean, I kind of do get it. Like if you don't want to rent it out, you could always use like a management company or whatever. But for the people that do live more nomadically and kind of want to keep that open-endedness,
I get both sides of it. I think my problem is the way they approach it.
From an equity perspective, I understand like the money and everything, but I also think that like based solely on the Red Robin's calling?
No, Tommy's calling.
It's the way in which they approach the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't even approach the conversation with my brother because I'm not like pushing him in that way. I think he'll get there, and I think in his time he'll get there. But if I push him, he won't. But there are a lot of people that I do approach the conversation because I do see it in them, and I do think that they have the capacity to make this transition happen. And then they give me excuses that are focused on the nomadic feature of their life. Right. And I think to myself, well, be nomadic, but build equity, right? I love the military guys that go from city to city to city. Dude. And they get transplanted and they keep buying houses. I'm like, even if 3 of those lose, no, they all do.
Okay. Well, no. But like the fact that you love that.
No, I love it.
Okay, because I was going to agree with you. I have a client. I'm interrupting you.
No, Bob. No. I'm going to remember my thing. The cat ran and I'm still here. Anyway.
So one of my clients, he was planning on buying when he moved here from, well, he actually didn't work with me. He ended up renting. He was moving from California to Maryland, and he's moved all around, hasn't bought a house before. And I'm like, dude, you've moved from city to city to city to city or town, whatever. You've been paying off people's mortgages, and now you're moving to Maryland where you originally grew up, going to be paying another person's mortgage. When are you going to become that VA person that buys their home, and then when you move to another city, rent that out? That way you can build your equity then, and if you want to go buy again, you have the ability to do so, or if you want to rent that property out, or whatever you want to do, you're going to be in a much better financial situation. But instead, like, I don't know what it is. I think there's VA people that do buy from city to city to city, and there's VA people who are just like, I'm just going to rent forever.
I mean, I agree. And I think that those people, they're just not my people. I think in the end of the day, they see things a little differently. I think I was looking for one of my clients and I can't find his phone number off the top of my head, but we've been talking about it a lot because he was positioned here, assigned to a task force, blah, 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 whatever. It doesn't matter. And now he's moving back home and his wife is like hell bent on not selling their home back home. And so, he's talking to me like a side note as, hey, I want to continue to invest. My wife doesn't want to move. I want to continue to invest, right? Or some of the buyers that I've had that have owned homes in multiple states. And what I was going to say before is like, I had a client who bought a home here with me back in 2015, and he just recently went to sell the property. It was a military transition, a military transfer, and a transfer of ownership between him and another military member. So there was no real estate agents involved. And he says, hey, Mike, I need your information. So, and then I start talking to him about his portfolio. What does it look like today? Since we bought this house back in 2015, what does it look like today? And he's like, well, I moved to this place and I bought a house there. My girlfriend had a house in Maryland. She now moved with me. So now we have these 3 houses. We're selling that one. We're looking to buy another one here. And now she's going to be selling. And then I have the opportunity to sell her home. And it's like, if you're not thinking constantly from the perspective of how I'm building my net worth, right, and less focused on the limitations of your nomadic lifestyle, it's just, to me, like, those are the excuses that I can't get behind. My brother is a financial nightmare, but he's getting himself together.
This gentleman had the opportunity to buy at like 4.5 or 4.75. And then he was like, oh my God, Christian, interest rates are like so high. Like, I'm never going to be able to afford this, blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't see myself getting a 4% or 4.5% interest rate. And I'm like, well, I mean,
this was totally unintentional, but I really love that you did it. You didn't see it. Christian goes, oh my God, Christian, I had a 4, interest rates are high. It's like this, it's like an itch. It's like I have to say it. Like, I can't buy today,
right,
because yeah, you can't. Like interest rates are high. Oh, rates are high. Oh, housing markets are high. Oh, buying a house in today's market. Oh, I don't have enough down payment. Like all these reasons. It's like what you're compelled to say no to.
Right.
And it's really funny because in our book, right? In our book, early on in the book, it talks about the growth trajectory of one success versus one failure.
Yeah.
And I found it to be really, really interesting when he actually drew it out. One success slowly builds success, and you almost can't even see it moving. And then all of a sudden, 327 days into the year, it just starts to skyrocket, right? One failure impacts you so fast, the failure rate, because getting to zero is impossible.
Right.
But getting down close to zero happens quickly. Getting from 100 to the success rate, the whole basis was at your level 100, can you get 1% better or 1% worse? And 1% worse, in theory, you think 100 days, 1% zero. But the reality is it's actually 99% day one, 97.9% day two, 96.9 whatever percent day three. And it goes down faster because you're actually deducting by one percentage, not 1 point.
Right.
Kind of a wild thought.
Two things. I love the book, and like I feel like I've come across that. I think early on they talk about like identity, whether it be like for real estate or your personal life or what have you, and I haven't really like thought about that before. So like defining who you truly are, and your professional and your personal.
Whose book was it?
Heather picked it.
You picked it.
Yeah. Great choice.
Have you read this book before?
I have not.
It's Atomic Habits, by the way.
Everyone talks about it. I feel like it's a book.
Well, when I went to Barnes and Noble, the lady looked at me like, "Oh my god, another guy getting this book."
Yeah, right. It's a cool book. It's probably my third time reading it. The first time I think I skimmed through it. I don't think I really read it. But then it's funny because as I'm reading it, I'm like literally texting other people. And I'm like, oh my God, Justin. Like today, I texted Justin. I typed in a section of the book and I typed in Justin. And I was like, dude, I don't know why. Third time reading this, this made me think of you. Send. And I just feel like that's the impact of growth mentality. That's the impact of like growing your net worth. It's the impact of building something for yourself. And to be fair to my brother, and like big shout out to him, he's come a long fucking way. He's in his own apartment with his own stuff, which anybody that knows our whole family, if any of my family is watching this podcast, they're going to be laughing because they all understand how big of an impact that is for him. So it's not to say that like buying a house isn't in his future. It's just to say that his growth trajectory is a little bit slower than others, but it doesn't mean it's not there. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. When you're talking about people that refute the idea of buying a house, it's refuting the growth trajectory. Are they getting 1% worse every day or they getting 1% better every day?
I'm going to start using that line. Oh, you don't want to buy a house? Or are you getting 1% better every day or 1% worse? You tell me.
I mean, and it sounds logical.
Christian, I can't do this. I can't do that. No. And I'm like, all right, so 1% worse. Let me talk to you how I can get you 1% better.
I mean, it's a crazy position to be in, to be a real estate agent and have that conversation with somebody where they're like, no, I don't want to buy because I want to be able to move. I want to travel. I want to do this. I want to do that. And you're like, look, let's do that. And they're like, okay, cool. Now I don't have to fight with you. And you're like, right, we're not going to fight. We're going to talk about this logically. What can we do to help you accomplish that? And if you do your job, they don't buy a house and they refer you everyone else that they know. Or they buy a house and they never talk to you again. Which do you want? So I think to myself, when it's about finding the right property in a spring market with the dynamic change, all the differences that are going on in the market, it's about finding the person, not the outcome.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Done. Heather's so quiet. It's like a little weird me out. It's also weird that like you haven't drank your coffee and I'm almost done.
No, she refilled it. You didn't see that? That was a whole thing.
I saw it.
It's been empty like 3 times.
Let's fill it.
That's 3 times today?
Okay, don't do that. It hasn't been all the way full. And this is...
Why is that not on our recorded shit?
Can we clip that and put it on the board?
Right. My God. Anyway.
He was trying to shame me. This is one coffee that I've poured in 3 times.
What she's saying is that she's poured this into her empty cup 3 times. Also, did you bring that cup?
I did.
It says don't be a dick.
I
feel like there was a time in which we bought a don't be a cuntosaurus mug for someone.
We've talked about this. You say it every time.
Oh, I mean, I know. I'm just trying to give the benefit of the doubt. There's 0 chance that this person follows our podcast, but Kate might. So Kate might know about that and me laughing. Anyway, why are you so quiet?
So Hey.
Yeah.
The
I'm just gonna talk.
I have a full-time job. Listing agent for 606.
We're talking
Meadow
deals
Road.
now.
Now we're in deals. Twat.
We rescinded our offer. Hi, cutie.
Hello.
Hello.
We rescinded our offer because it doesn't have a basement. And then
They're like, I'll install a basement.
she just, not only did she not answer my call for the last 4 days
Okay.
and then texted me on the fourth one, but
Yeah.
she just called me twice and then texted and was like, what do you mean? They don't want the house anymore?
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. It happens. We've dealt with it before. We will deal with it again.
I mean,
The dynamics of a changing market. Also, there's another thing. By the way, can we talk about that for a second? The dynamics of a changing market. It's important to understand the agent that you hire is a reflection of you. So, like, could you imagine running into the seller of the first house that Bun went to buy?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that interaction? It would just be weird and awkward. And maybe the sellers are awful. That's a very real possibility. But also maybe their agent just wasn't reflecting who they desired to buy their house the proper way. Right?
Well,
So in this
it was-
way, maybe the seller's just trying to act in the best, or I'm sorry, the agent is acting in the best interest of the seller. But in another way, maybe the agent is projecting their impression.
Well, we talk about like, I don't want to say staying out of the deal, but like not projecting as much as some agents do. Mm-hmm. Like you always bring that up.
It's a fun one.
It is.
It's a fun one. I think in the end of the day, when you hire someone, you want to not only trust them and believe in them and confide in them, you want somebody that you can work with and relate with, but you also want someone that's going to represent you. And I know that sounds like a weird thing, but you don't always have representation. Let's talk about that another time. But you want somebody that's going to like take in your words and push them out in the right way. And is it always being this like combative force with the co-op agent, or maybe it might just be supporting the goal of accomplishing the transaction? I don't know. Still quiet. You need to drink all of your coffee. I'm just-
We were talking about, okay.
wrong
Wrong one, dude.
Muted Christian.
We were talking about, what was it? I think Andrea was sitting down with us with Ray. It was like your social,
Oh, Dre, what was that?
it was the battery.
Was it battery?
Yeah, social battery.
Social battery.
Mine just tanked.
We're
like
going to talk
2
about that
seconds ago.
a whole different way. You need G Fuel. Everybody needs G Fuel.
Dude, the coffee I get from Rise Up, I feel like it has a lot of caffeine in it.
It's maybe, I don't know. We're going to talk about your social battery, but I also agree that there are times in which your social battery is drained, and I think there's times in which your battery is filled up. We talk also about emotion, and I'm believing more and more and more, and I want to start researching more about like the understanding of the dynamics of the difference of energy, both in person and virtual, because I feel like it's palpable.
Okay, explain some more.
I'm very much an in-person person. I know that if I can
In person right now. The background laughs. I mean, I agree.
I'm gonna give you all one more time and then
We're going to have a whole page of just sounds from Heather.
I just think that not only is it like a thing, like it's like a, oh, I like to be in person, or like, oh, I want to be around people. I think it's truly like genuinely, I'm starting to believe that it's a physical thing.
I think it is too. I
Dude,
think it.
what-
I think it follows that Office episode that you always talk about, where he's like, "Okay, let's do it in this office."
Oh,
Wait,
yeah,
no, we're gonna do it in it's being in that
I don't watch
space
The Office.
together.
I can't relate. No, but I think it relates to our book as well. It talks about environment.
Yeah.
I think on chapter 5, 6, something like that. I don't know if you guys are that far in. I got a lot of reading to do before next Monday. So
I'm gonna be honest. I'm on chapter 3, and
you picked the book.
It's fine.
Okay.
You've got to
Sorry.
it'll be done.
So something really crazy. This is a very true story, and it's kind of sad. So before I was in real estate, I was in landscape construction. I went to work for a big company. They shipped us out to Oklahoma, where we lived.
Goddamn Oklahoma.
Yeah, where we lived, and we worked on this job site. So myself and the other project foreman shared a room. And it was like 2 beds, and in between our beds was like a nightstand. And he had a plant on his nightstand. And
But there was just one nightstand.
1 nightstand, 2 beds, very small room. Right. Like we had our personal stuff like under the bed. Like that was our dresser, you know, tough life. But we were there for a long time. And over time, it would be like every Sunday, he had a routine. And I came to learn that he had a disease called MS, if you've ever heard of it. And so by the time Sunday rolled around, he would be, you know, Friday, certainly Saturday, if we were working the job site, his feet, instead of like lifting his feet like this, his feet would kind of go like this. Right? He didn't have the energy, the muscular capacity to like lift his toe off the ground. And then he would give himself a shot on Sunday morning. And then about 20, 30 minutes later, it would kick in and it would kind of give him a whole body like comatose, if you will. And he just needed that, whatever that shot was, to recover. It was a part of his medical plan. But during that 20 minutes, he would take the shot, he would feed his plant, he'd talk to the plant, and then he would set his alarm for the next morning in the off chance that he didn't wake up again that evening. And then we'd go about our day. Well, I saw him do this one time and I was like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Right? And he's talking to his plant and he's watering the plant. He's kind of moving it or whatever. And he said something like, oh, I swear this plant is growing towards me. And I was like, nah, you're an idiot. It's growing towards the sun, right? Like that's what I've been taught my whole life. But over the time that we were there, I was like, God damn, maybe this plant is growing towards him. Right? Because you saw it and it was almost like weird. Like the shoots of the plant had more stalks going towards his bed than the ones that were going straight up towards the window. I was like, what the fuck? Right? And there's just so much about that when I look back and I start to think about energy. I genuinely do believe that there is a palpable, transmittable thing that's unexplainable that comes much more than just the sun looking at your face and feeling like, oh, I feel great. But I do believe that it's in existence.
What?
I have some really crackhead shit to say, but I don't want to say it.
Spit it. Let's hear.
I have like very like out there like ideas and beliefs. I'm a big believer in energy. Like I'm a big like
Why is that making an
sciencey person when it comes to this. So it's like Narnia.
I agree.
And I know I sound like a crackhead, but I legitimately like I feel like Avatar was onto something. I think that Narnia was onto something. Obviously, these aren't like full truth. I understand that these are Disney movies, but in the way that like there can be 500 acres of one plant, and at one end, something that is harmful to those plants touches it, and on the other end of the 500 acres, all of these plants have closed up to avoid the threat.
Correct.
There's communication through
100%.
Plants. There's energy running through plants.
100%.
Like,
and there's provable facts.
and we all did this science fair experiment.
Which one?
The one with like the best conditions for growing plants, and you put music and like happy shit near
Right.
one, and you're like, we've been doing this since we were kids.
Yeah,
this is
right.
all
What kind of music did y'all play?
like Bob Marley versus
Yeah, I think
like
I did like Elton John
death,
when I was a kid.
heavy metal.
And which one grew the best?
The Elton John was closer to the window, so I was attributed it to that. But I think I was in like 6th grade, right? Like I don't know, but I think it's just wild, and I think it's an interesting dynamic that if you can't pull energy from your surroundings, like maybe you need to be in different surroundings. I also think that like G Fuel, coffee, other things that give you energy, they're artificial, and I get that. But what I'm saying is like this is just a supplement to my ability to be in my environment.
A little conduit action.
Right. So like sometimes when I go to my showings, it'll be Saturday morning, it'll be 8 a.m. I wake up early, I get out the door, and I'm in the car rolling out, put the top down, have my G Fuel, pulling up to my meeting with my client, and then it's like I'm on. For my G Fuel? Yeah. Nah. But we should though. We should work on
The
that.
amount of G Fuel he drinks, we should have a
It's
sponsorship.
not even me, it's Dave. Don't blame me.
It's all y'all.
But like I'm putting the top down, I'm getting into my environment, but as soon as I'm with them, now it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Now I'm on. And when my clients are receptive and responsive, we get to be farther and farther and farther into the relationship because of the energy that we give back and forth.
I think you're very good at that. Like it's something.
I think all of us are. You just have to harness it.
Yeah.
Right? Like go back to your atomic habits, go back to your books, right? Go back to your David Goggins, go back to your other things and start to think about what am I going to be today? right? Somehow, some way, we got to talking about you yesterday, and it was like it was like something to the effect of, oh, Christian was driving so much to get to the office, so then he wanted to move closer, so then this, so then that, and then the other, and I was like, yeah, but Christian always complains about something.
Hey.
Yeah, but that's my point. That's my point, is that like that's the perception, whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
It's like you have to decide to change that perception. And all of the other things that come around it, you have to decide to have the energy. You have to decide to be willing to drink, right? Whatever it might be, you have to decide to like smile or be negative or be positive or whatever. And like even in my email to you this morning about receipts, I was like, damn, this sucks. Which is why I wrote like, it sucks that you're on both ends of the receiving of this, because it does.
That's why I said K in response.
Right. But you can decide to, like, when you receive that message, you can decide to be like, all right, no, I like where you're coming from. I understand why you're coming at it this way. Let me help you accomplish it. Or you could decide to be like, oh, God, everybody just wants something from me. Right? That's a decision.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it starts. And I think the energy starts at your decision-making process. What is happening? And I just feel like, being with the right person is so much more than their knowledge of real estate factoids. And there's no way, let's be real, there's no way anyone listening to this podcast will ever know their real estate agent's knowledge of real estate factoid.
Yeah.
Never. And it's just like, come on, hire somebody that you like, you trust, and you can confide in, and then you'll move through the spring market with ferocity. Like, boom.
Gang.
Ferocity. I mean. Sorry.
What in the world?
I don't know what's going
So
on.
funny. You were like, those words are so like big and bold, and the way you said it was like, I mean, I guess we'll move ferociously.
Not ferociously. That would be a different word.
Oh, God.
Oh my
Ferocity is. I'm not doing this.
God. Let me tell you, my mom is watching all of this happen, and she's just like, what the fuck is going on right now? This is what we've built. This is actually what we've built. At any rate, all right, well, you guys have any more closing thoughts before
No, I'm not gonna lie. I thought we were done 30 minutes
Jesus
ago.
Christ. Hey, we had a good time.
Oh, God.
We had a good time.
That's why I was on my phone.
If you ever need to reach me, you guys know where to hit me. You can always reach me at Michael Frank __ on Instagram
Christ.
or at frankoliverco.com. Reach out to Christian if you ever need anything, and Heather if you're going to be ripped for the day. But we will talk to you guys real soon. You guys want to share off?
Yeah, Christian the Deadhead on Instagram. We'll keep it simple today. Heather?
Yeah. Talk to you soon, guys.